What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Weekend Roundup here on Touchline Talk. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the content going up on the channel. Going to bounce around a little bit today here, just talking about some of the bigger stories or kind of my big takeaways from the weekend. Weren't too many incredibly high profile matchups in Europe in particular. So some reflections heading into the international break and some domestic stuff as well. Starting with the Orlando Pride clinching the NWSL Shield with 3 games to spare after defeating the Washington Spirit. This team is unbeaten and has won 17 of its 23 NWSL regular season games. This is a club that had double-digit wins once before last season. Seb Hines comes in, gets to take over his first full season, 2023. You see significant improvement. They're right there in the playoff picture until the end. You go, okay. Clearly, he's got things going in the right direction. This club is one to keep an eye on. They seem to be trending upward. Wouldn't be surprised if they continue to build on this in 2024. And yes, bringing in a world-class striker like Barbara Banda certainly helps. But nobody saw this coming. This is not just being the best team in the NWSL. This is perhaps being the best team in league history. And barring something catastrophic here in these final 3 games, putting together, statistically, the best season in NWSL history. This came out of nowhere. And I haven't spent as much time talking about it as I would have liked to because covering so many different things here, it's kind of a weird story to cover week to week because it's just, oh, the Pride have won again. The Pride are still unbeaten. Whereas you have kind of specific talking points or big games to cover in some of the other situations. And so it just has admittedly flown under the radar in terms of my coverage of it. Obviously, I knew it was happening and paying attention, but now we have something tangible to point to in the NWSL Shield, so I wanted to take a minute to talk about this because this is an absolutely remarkable story. And it is also a demonstration of how quickly things can change in the NWSL. If you get the right people in the right spots, if you make the right signings, you can go from being traditionally one of the worst teams in the league, one of the more inconsistent, kind of unstable ones, to a record-setting season. Right? That they made some important changes, but you can only change so much in 2 years. And from 2 years, they have gone from being a very, very bad team to a historically great one. That is the small margin of error we are talking about in this league, which is what makes this league so great. That no team, and they are certainly not the only ones who are demonstrating this. I mean, you could look at the Washington Spirit, Kansas City Current, you can go down the list. But no team is that far away from being really good. And no team, see the Portland Thorns, is that far away, or the San Diego Wave too. I mean, this season is illustrating all kinds of different ways in which this is true. You're not that far from going from being really good to being near the bottom of the league and not making the playoffs. Everything has to be lined up. And those just little things can go such a long way toward determining your season. And so I just wanted to take a minute to give the Pride their flowers and the credit they deserve for this. This is absolutely incredible, no matter how it ends. And if they actually end up bringing home the championship, we're talking about the best team in the history of this league. And I don't know how you can dispute that. It is absolutely remarkable. That's the conversation we're having. But here we are. Congratulations to the Orlando Pride, your regular season NWSL Shield champions. Next, I do want to jump over to Europe on the men's side for a little bit, just a couple of takeaways, and then I want to end with some MLS. Premier League, not too many shocking results. 2 games I want to touch on here in a week where Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester City. A little bit shaky for City, but they ultimately get the job done, come away with 3 points, no major controversies and sending offs because of delay of game, second yellows, and that kind of stuff. So, first, Leicester City got their first win of the season and comes at home against Bournemouth with Steve Cooper under a lot of pressure. And I wanted to talk about this for a minute because I quite frankly don't exactly get this enormous pressure that Steve Cooper is feeling. Do they have a clear defined style of play that looks really good and makes you feel confident? No. This is a team that came from the championship last season. I don't care how easy they made it look for portions of last season. And this is a team that, by the way, lost its coach and its best player in Kieran Dewsbury Hall. I don't know what you're supposed to expect out of this team. But they show up and are in these games every week. I mean, look at this last stretch here. They had Palace beaten at the 90-minute mark. They were tied with Arsenal. Oh, Palace on the road, by the way. Tied with Arsenal at the Emirates at the 90-minute mark. And were able to see out this Bournemouth game. Now, yes, they ultimately dropped points against Palace. They ultimately lost to Arsenal. That's obviously part of this. You got to close out games better. But to me, this is exceeding expectations. They have not been a relegation team at any point here. Now, are they better than the 15th best team in this league? No. But I really feel like they are 15, 16, 17, not 18, 19, 20. And the results and the way they're playing have shown that. And they should have more points than they do. Which is why getting this first win was really important, because those points have to come from somewhere. They should have come against Crystal Palace. And they only got one instead of three. So to get a home win, to keep a clean sheet, really, really important. Big win and a big day for Steve Cooper. But I feel like this is going about as well as you could have reasonably expected it to. So I wanted to highlight that for a second. And then also mention Chelsea drawing with Nottingham Forest. There's been all of this positive momentum around Chelsea. Cole Palmer is obviously playing out of his mind. There was that, a significant stretch where Nicholas Jackson was looking really, really good. I just haven't seen enough to completely buy into this team. Are they improved? Most likely. Certainly looks that way. Being improved and being a top four team, two completely different things. I am not convinced in any way, shape, or form they are top four. They are unbelievably entertaining. Every game seems like weird things are happening. Goals are going back and forth, which to me is not a sustainable way to be a top four club. And you clearly have three teams ahead of them already in Arsenal, City, and Liverpool. Not in that particular order, just that's how it came out. But then you're talking about everybody else, and do I think Chelsea's the best of the rest? No. Could they be? Sure. But this kind of game, you drop points, you're playing against 10 men at the end. This is the kind of thing that I was kind of waiting and expecting to happen. I'm to the point with Chelsea, like Manchester United, not Manchester City, Manchester United, where I will believe something is going to ultimately feel different, the narrative's going to be different when it is. Don't care that the manager changed, don't care that some of the players are different. If Nicholas Jackson puts together a really, really good stretch of 38 games, or 35, if he doesn't play every single one, then great. That's not what we've seen so far. This is why I believe Cole Palmer is the single most valuable player in the Premier League. Because to me, still, right now, this is more about him than it is about Chelsea. He is just that good and putting this team in this position. Maybe I'm proven wrong on that, and I'll own it if I am. I'm just haven't seen enough to convince me that Chelsea collectively are that improved. To me, it's still really the story about Cole Palmer carrying this team more than anything else. Then, also wanted to just note, this was a weekend going into an international break in which Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund, Bayer Leverkusen, and PSG all dropped points. And so we're heading into this international break with a very close race in the Premier League, a very close race in the Bundesliga. PSG not ahead in Liga. Interesting things happening in La Liga. And of course, the jumbled mess that is Serie A right now, and who knows who the front runner in that league is. Long story short, we're early. Certainly just can't jump to any conclusions here and say we're going to have really good title races all the way till the end. But we're in a really good position to have some really interesting title races, at least 2 or 3 of them. Maybe Bayern pull away. I still expect PSG to pull away. Maybe somebody in La Liga does. Maybe Manchester City does. But this is about as good of a start as you could ask for in terms of keeping these races competitive and getting some compelling storylines at the top of these tables early in the season to keep people interested, hopefully until the very end. Finally, Major League Soccer. Couple games between now and decision day, but basically the penultimate week of the season. Pretty much every team that has something to play for on decision day is now waiting until decision day to play. I know there are a couple games that need to be made up in there. But I want to talk about the Eastern Conference for a second, because DC United get a huge win. They get all kinds of help. Toronto eliminate themselves from the conversation. Montreal lose. Union nearly snatch a point in Columbus, but ultimately can't, so they lose. Atlanta United keep themselves in it. And so now you have a situation in which you've got 4 teams, Montreal, DC, Philly, and Atlanta, still in contention for those final 2 playoff spots. The other 7 teams ahead of them are not order set, but those are going to be your top 7. But it's not just that we have really exciting things on decision day. And it's not just the race for those final 2 play-in spots either. 4th place, up for grabs. Orlando get a big win in Cincinnati to really put themselves in position. But job's not done yet. NYCFC's still there. And then you've got some positioning things kind of behind that, which all leads to a situation in which, remarkably, all 4 of those teams I mentioned that are fighting for those final 2 playoff spots are going to be playing a team on decision day with something to play for. Whether that's seeding or positioning in terms of home field for MLS Cup. If you play certain teams, that's kind of where FC Cincinnati are. They're trying to beat out some Western Conference teams in terms of points. Of course, you got that home field advantage in the first round and that 4th spot up for grabs. Nobody is playing a team that's already done for and is just kind of waiting for their season to be done. Nobody's playing an Inter Miami who, just kind of had nothing left to do at this point until the playoffs. They're all playing each other. Everybody's got something on the line, which is going to make for a fantastic decision day in the Eastern Conference. So really looking forward to that in a couple weeks. Obviously, got the international break first. That is all for this edition of the Weekend Roundup. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.